Good evening, I'm Viviana Hurtado. Welcome to This Week in Northern California. What happens or doesn't happen in Washington on immigration this year will have a big impact here in California. President Obama pressed Congress to pass within the next 6 months comprehensive immigration reform. He addressed this issue in Las Vegas on Tuesday.
And if Congress is unable to move forward in a timely fashion, I will send up a bill based on my proposal and insist that they vote on it right away.
A bipartisan group of senators who call themselves the Gang of Eight released their reform proposal, which includes a path to citizenship. The key elements include more border security and better tracking of current visa holders, more green cards to skilled and highly educated immigrants, a program for low-skilled migrant workers, and cracking down on those who employ undocumented workers. What does it all mean for California and here in the Bay Area? Joining me with answers are Marcela, Davison, Avilés with the San Jose Mexican Heritage Festival, Emil, Guillermo, writer for the Asian American Legal Defense and Education Fund, and Aarti Kohli, research fellow at UC Berkeley. And Aarti, we're going to begin with you because these are all proposals right now, but really any overhaul to our immigration system is going to have a big repercussion here in California. Can you tell us what that would be?
Of course. We're the state with the largest number of immigrants. We have 2.5 million undocumented immigrants, and we've got a third of our registered voters are lawful immigrants. So any way you cut it, it's going to have a huge impact. And there's a lot in here for everyone. Employers, students who came here at a young age, they're called dreamers, agricultural workers. Some of the things that people may not be aware of, in the president's proposal, LGBT families will be able to sponsor their family members.
And that's in the president's proposal, but not in the so-called Gang of Eight proposal.
It's not in the Gang of Eight proposal. But I think one of the other issues for Californians in terms of watching this debate and participating in it, is to understand what the roadblocks are. Because it's not just smooth sailing. There's a lot of concern about high fines for low-income immigrants, requirements such as civics and English, even before you can get a green card. Those are requirements we have for people who can become citizens, not for getting a green card. And the biggest thing is getting in the back of the line. And because our legal immigration system is so backlogged, right now, people who've sponsored a sibling in 1989 from the Philippines are waiting and getting that green card now.
And let me jump in here really quickly, Aarti. Very quickly, what does it mean to get into the back of the line? Because that's a little controversial and tricky.
It means that we have a family legal immigration system which is backlogged. So if you're sponsoring a child, a spouse, a parent, you sometimes have to wait years.
All right,
and so if you're undocumented and you get this temporary legal status, this provisional legal status, you can't get your green card till everybody in the family system is processed.
But it's important to note that there is no technically a back of the line. It's kind of a mythic thing.
Right.
It does mean it's a long process, and that's one of the things that Asian American communities are concerned with. What's going to determine, who gets, the green card? What's a probationary status that they have to go through? Because a lot of what's been discussed tends to be kind of punitive. And that's one of the things I'm hearing from immigration groups, that the punitive nature of some of these guidelines scares a lot of folks about what we're going to ultimately come up with. Because border enforcement is a key part of this. And, for example, Asian Americans don't really care about border enforcement, but they do care about visa overstays. The Obama administration has deported about 1.4 million people or 1.5 million in their first term. The fear is that maybe they'll go after overstays next.
And so, Marcela, we know that certainly there are a lot of communities, particularly here in California, that it's going to affect, but the Hispanic community is the largest of these communities. So what's the mood from what you're hearing?
Well, I think the mood is one of renewed optimism, as the president noted in his speech. I think it's actually one of an invigorated optimism combined with a pragmatism, a feeling of, we've waited this long, there are many obstacles, pragmatic perseverance, I think, is in the heart of our community. But to be sure, a lot of optimism that we've not seen before, and it's really being expressed in new ways, especially in social media, where I think definitions of Latino identity, Latino clout, the ways that we tell our stories around immigration are now being seen for the first time.
Emil, you're from the Central Valley, and that's certainly another big stakeholder in our state is the agricultural community. What are you hearing from them?
Well, I talked to some growers this week, and they're very concerned. Everyone wants this mythical pathway to citizenship, and they buy into that. But they say, we don't want a pathway that will lead our workers into better high-paying jobs in the city. They're concerned about keeping their workers picking their crops so that they can make a decent profit, what they think is a decent profit. If they don't, and if, say, there's legalization, they're going to have to pay higher wages, and then that's going to mean an impact on consumers at the grocery stores. So one thing that the growers wanted to hear, and they haven't heard it heretofore, and that's the idea of a bracero program or some kind of guest worker program, because many people on the conservative front are trying to push this, saying that this is going to stem illegal immigration in the future, because you'll have a way that people can come back and forth, and the growers can have people picking their crops, and everyone's going to be happy. Except Big Labor, AFL-CIO, and community groups are against a bracero program because they find it unseemly and less than humane, and not the idea, what if someone comes in and wants citizenship? But at least with the bracero program, if it comes out in the ensuing weeks, you do have something that addresses future immigration, and that's something that proponents of a bracero program say is good, that you have something that will address illegal immigration in the future.
But sorry.
Yeah, and I just wanted to move on to another class of immigrants here in California, particularly in Northern California, Silicon Valley.
Right.
So let's talk about them, and particularly, Aarti, if you can talk to us really about these visas and increasing the number of visas for those who are highly skilled, those that graduate from programs in science and technology.
Right. So there's something called the STEM visa, science, technology, engineering, and math. And it was actually, funnily enough, Mitt Romney's idea of stapling the STEM visa to a degree. And so it's included in both the Senate and the President's proposal of for anybody who gets a master's or a PhD, they can get a visa. The President's proposal also says that you have to have employment. And the Senate's proposal is all you need is the degree. The President has taken it a step further, and he also has a startup visa. He wants to lift the employment per country cap so that it's not, you can have as many people from a few select countries. Right now we limit it. And so there's quite a bit there for Silicon Valley. I think that the questions for them are, will they get the numbers that they want?
And those numbers certainly seem to be fluctuating depending on who you speak with. Last word is going to go to Marcela, but I'm going to need you to keep this as tight as possible. Basically, Republicans are saying if the president, if they're going to be on board, they want more enforcement. But how much wiggle room does the president have on enforcement? Because some would say he's at the very, very end of the line there.
Well, as a practical matter, he may have some more tools in his arsenal that would be available to him, but I would say politically that he doesn't have a lot of wiggle room. Our community has been waiting too long for a chance to be part of the American dream, and I think especially those at the border have seen the militarization of the border impact their businesses. It's impacted the environment, and so I feel that from a political perspective there's going to be a very interesting dialogue going on between the president and his administration and those that are pushing for more enforcement, when, as we have discussed tonight, this is a president who has already deported over 1 million people, and so I think that's just going to be a non-starter for a lot of folks.
Really quickly, Emil, what do you think is the wiggle room?
Well, I don't know if there's much wiggle room. For example, conservatives are already saying non-starter on pathway to citizenship, and growers are demanding to see a Bracero program. If that's there, you're going to have the AFL-CIO down, the big labor on President Obama's neck.
But you did have Senator McCain saying that we need to have the pathway to citizenship.
But the point is that you have a very fragile bipartisan debate, right, and it all blows up very easily. We can go into a rancorous debate similar to what we had in 1994 with 187.
And as you can see, certainly this is an issue that's not going to go away. I really want to thank you for your insight, and we're going to continue to follow the story. Thank you very much for joining us.